Morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Rabbi.
Rabbi.
Ketavach Shavua Tov. We are learning Mishna Rosh Hashanah, Parak Daled, Chapter 4, Mishnah Hey, Mishnah 5. Okay, now, we're going to go back now to the laws about blowing shofar. And we know that we blow shofar before Musaf, before the additional service, or the Musaf service, and then we blow during the repetition. In some communities, they blow during the silent Shemona Esrei too. But the point, our Mishnah is going to be focusing on the blowing of the shofar that takes place during the repetition of the Shemona Esrei. And in order to, again, fully appreciate what our Mishnah is talking about, we have to bear in mind that when our Shemona Esrei, right, our Amida, always consists of the three opening blessings that are called Avos. The first one is called Avos, fathers. The second one is called Gevuros, powers of Hashem. And the third one is called Kedusha, sanctification, the sanctity of Hashem. That's the third, or holiness of the name. Hakel HaKadosh, holiness of the name. And then it concludes with Ritzei, which is a prayer about the return of the service of the Beis HaMikdash, Modim, thanksgiving, and then Sim Shalom, peace, which actually in our Mishnah, Sim Shalom and Birchas Kohanim, the blessing of the Kohanim, are interchangeable. They're both consider that last third section. Now, our middle section during the week is another 16 blessings, another 13 blessings in the middle. On Shabbos, you don't have 13 blessings, right? On Shabbos, we have one blessing in the middle. On Yontif, we have one blessing in the middle. On Rosh Hashanah, which means a total on Yontif and on Shabbos is 7. On Rosh Hashanah, our total is 9. That's the total on Rosh Hashanah. Because on Rosh Hashanah, we add 2 more blessings to the Musaf service. And as we're familiar, there are 3 additional sections that are added to the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah. They are the sections of Malchias, that talk about Hashem's kingship over the world. Zechreinus, remembrances, how Hashem remembers, bears in mind us and our actions. And the third is Shofars, about the shofar. About the shofar that was blown at Mount Sinai, the shofar that's going to be blown when Mashiach comes. And these are 3 sections that are added. However, the section of Malchias, about the section about Hashem's kingship, is incorporated, doesn't have its own blessing. It's incorporated into one of the other blessings. But when we're talking about the section of Zechreinus and Shofris, they have their own section of their own blessing. Therefore, the total of blessings on Rosh Hashanah is 9. Okay? But our Mishnah is going to be focusing around the fact that the section of Malchias, about kingship, again, doesn't have its own section, its own blessing. It's incorporating into into one of the other blessings. And that's what the discussion of the Mishnah is going to revolve around. Okay, so here we go. Say the brachas, the order of the blessings. Oimer, he says. Now, in the context of our Mishnah, we're talking about the person, the chazan. We're talking about the person who's the shliach tzibur, the person who is leading the service. A lot of what's going to be said applies to even a person davening on their own. They still have to say all these blessings, but the blowing of the shofar during that time is something that is unique to when you're in shul and you have a repetition of the Shemona Esrei. So say the brachas, the order of the blessings. Omer, he says, Avos, the first blessing of any Shemona Esrei, fathers. Ugevurais, the second blessing, which is called powers. Ukedushas Hashem, the third blessing, the sanctity of God's name. Now, the koilel malchios imohen, and the section of malchios is incorporated into the third blessing. Okay? It's incorporated into the third blessing. And by the section of Malchias is how we recite verses that talk about Hashem's kingship. But according to this opinion of the Mishnah, the section of Malchias is included in the third blessing. The Eina Toikeya, you don't blow then. You don't blow the shofar at that point. Kedushas Hayoim, then you get to the next blessing, which is called Sanctity of the Day, which is really the type of blessing that you have on Shabbos and on Yontif, and Rosh Hashanah has its own text of it. But again, it's called Kedushas Hayoim. It's the blessing that describes the sanctity of the day. That is the fourth blessing, right? That's the fourth one. That's the fourth blessing. But Tekei, you blow then. Zechronos, you have the fifth blessing of Zechronos, the section about Hashem's remembrance, the Tekeya, and you blow the shofar. Shofros, you get to the section of shofros, which again is its own section with its own blessing, the Tekeya, and you blow then. The Oimer, and one says, then next thing after that, he says, Avoda, the section of the service of the Beis HaMikdash, what we refer to as Ritzei, the Hoida, Thanksgiving, the blessing of Modim, Ubirchas Chayim, the blessing of the Kohanim, which includes that and the last bracha of Sim Shalom. Di Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, these are the words of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So the main point that we have to focus on is the fact that according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, in what section did he include Malchus, the section of kingship? He included in the third bracha of the Shemoneh Esrei. Why does he include it into the third bracha of the Shemoneh Esrei? Because I'm going to read here from the way the notes bring it down. The passage of kingship is included in the third blessing, holiness of the name, because these two themes are closely related, right? The holiness of God's name, God's holiness, and the fact that he's king over his kingship over everything, those are closely related. So according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, it goes into the third blessing. Now, the thing is, though, that although you're talking about the section of Malchias, which is a section unique to Rosh Hashanah, you're not blowing the shofar then. You're blowing the shofar by the neck, according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, blowing shofar by the next blessing, which is the blessing about Kedushas Hayom, the sanctity of the day, which is in essence a type of blessing. It's not the same wording, but a type of blessing that you find in every holiday. That's the point, according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, when you blow the shofar. And the reason is because of this. The thing is that after the sections of Zechronos and Shofars, those sections of remembrances and shofars, everybody agreed. That was a tradition that they had. You blow the shofar after those sections. That's not a question. Okay, that's not a question. Now, the thing is that if you're going to blow the shofar when you recite the section of Malchias, which is not in the fourth blessing, it's in the third blessing of God's holy name, then you're going to come out blowing shofar, doing a section where there's no shofar blowing, and then blow shofar another two after the next two sections. That doesn't work. All three have to be in order. You have to blow the shofar in after three consecutive sections. That's how you have to do it. Okay? That's how you have to do it. And therefore, if according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Malchias is included in the third blessing, not the fourth, you're not going to blow the shofar by the third, you're going to blow it after the fourth, and the fifth and the sixth. Now, Amar Rabbi Akiva said to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, if one does not blow for the section of kingship, Lamahu Masker, why are you saying it for? Now that's a bit extreme, right? He seems to be saying if you don't blow the shofar for the section of Malchias, why are you saying it? So they bring that here in the notes from the Gemara. Rabbi Akiva didn't mean that to say, well, if you don't blow, why are you saying it? You have to say it because it's the main theme of the day of Rosh Hashanah. But he means to say, let me treat you from the bottom how they say it. Akiva's words are not to be taken literally. Kingship is a central theme of Rosh Hashanah and surely cannot be deleted from the prayer. Rather, he means that if the kingship passage does not have a shofar blowing, the passage should reflect this by containing fewer verses than the other passages. That's what the Gemara says. There's a certain number of passages, of verses rather, to each section of Malchis, Zechronos, and Shofars, which we'll learn in the next Mishnah. If Rabbi Akiva's point is that if you don't blow the shofar by Malchis, by the section of Hashem's kingship, then the fact that you're not blowing shofar there should be reflected in the fact, it should be reflected in the blessing, that it should have less verses than the other ones. That's what the Gemara says. If you don't blow, then Lamahu Maska doesn't mean why you're mentioning it at all, but it means why are you mentioning the same way, the section of Malchias with the same number of verses as you would by the other sections. And therefore, he says like this, Ela Oimer, rather, one says, Avais, he says the first blessing of the fathers, Ugavuris, the second blessing of powers, Ugadushas Hashem, the third bracha of the holiness of Hashem's name. The Koilel Malchias and Kedushas Hayom. And then when you get to the fourth bracha of the sanctity of the day, that is where you include the verses, the section of kingship, the Toikeya, and you blow then. The Zechronos, you have the section of Hashem's remembrances, the Toikeya, and you blow then. Shofaris, the section of shofars, the Toikeya, and you blow. So again, you have the blowing after three consecutive three consecutive blessings. But according to Rabbi Akiva, you're including Malchias in the fourth blessing. So now you have blowing by Malchias too. Okay. The Omer Avoda, he then says the blessing of Avoda, Ritzei, V'Hodaya, the blessing of Thanksgiving Modim, Uberchas Kayanim, the blessing of the Kohanim, and Simshalim. So the difference between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yochanan Nuri is that they both agree you're going to blow by the fourth blessing. The question is, where will the section of Malchias be included? In the third blessing or in the fourth? And according to Rabbi Akiva, the section of Malchias of Hashem kingship is included in the fourth blessing, the blessing of Kedushas Hayom, the sanctity of the day. As I read to you from here on the bottom, God's kingship is the primary theme of the festival of Rosh Hashanah. That's the primary theme of Rosh Hashanah. As such, the passage about God's kingship belongs to the blessing of holiness of the day, which is about the festival itself. Kedushas Hayom is the blessing about the festival of Rosh Hashanah. And since the main Rosh Hashanah is kingship, therefore Rabbi Akiva says it belongs in that section. At the end of the day, we paskin like Rabbi Akiva. That's how we do it. There is an addition that we make to the third bracha of Akel HaKadosh of Hashem, the holiness of Hashem's name. There are some additions we make to that, but the Malchias of Musaf, the section of the passages of Hashem kingship that belong to Musaf, we follow Rabbi Akiva, and they are included in the fourth blessing of Kedushas Hayom, the sanctity of the day. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.